Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're venturing into a really interesting piece one of you sent in. It's called The Age of Tuning, Human Future in 10 Years.
Yeah, this one definitely caught my eye too. It's not your typical forecast, is it?
Not at all. The author even describes their method as being a psychedelic thought architect.
Right, which, suggests they're deliberately trying to make these unconventional links
Right.
to find new angles.
Exactly. Feels like it's trying to shake us out of the usual prediction patterns.
Mm.
And the core question is huge. What will we humans actually be doing in 10 years?
But it immediately challenges that, suggesting we first need to rethink what doing means, and human, and even time, actually.
Okay, yeah. It introduces this idea of multiple overlapping temporalities.
Mm.
So let's unpack that a little. There's technological time speeding up, right?
Right, seems like it accelerates constantly. Then you've got emotional time.
Which moves slower, much more, well, human-paced.
Yeah, and ecological time, thinking about the planet, long-term consequences.
And then cultural time, which the source frames more in terms of cycles, maybe reinterpretations.
Exactly. And the argument is what we'll be doing isn't one single trajectory. It depends on which of these timelines we're tuning into.
As individuals or as a society.
Both, I think. It's a really interesting frame, isn't it?
Yeah.
For thinking about the future.
It really is. And from that base, it starts drawing connections, like between work, play, and meaning.
Right. So with automation and potentially taking over more traditional labor, the source suggests our value might shift towards what it calls symbolic contribution or emotional authenticity, curating experiences, maybe?
Things that are uniquely human, essentially, beyond just the routine stuff.
Yeah.
It gives some pretty interesting examples, like emotional engineers. Makes you wonder, right? Helping navigate inner worlds.
Could be. And synthetic memory sculptors, that sounds like pure sci-fi.
Crafting digital memories.
Yeah.
Or maybe curating them. And AI whisperers, too.
People who can genuinely collaborate with advanced AI, these roles really highlight a future where, empathy, creativity, that human AI bridge, that's where the value is.
A different kind of value creation.
Definitely.
Then it takes a sharp turn into technology and spirituality, which I admit I wasn't entirely expecting.
Well, it connects later to this meta-trend, the internalization of technology.
Yeah.
The idea is, as things like brain-computer interfaces, Neuralink is the famous example.
Correct brain-computer links, yeah.
As they get more sophisticated, they might unlock something the source calls digital mysticism.
So beyond just controlling things with thought,
Hmm.
maybe shared lucid dreams.
That's one example, yeah.
Or consciousness networks.
Yeah.
Even simulated EO death experiences.
Whoa, okay, that's blurring some serious lines
Yeah.
between tech and really deep personal, maybe even spiritual states.
It really makes you question what is consciousness, what's reality,
Mhm.
if we can digitally simulate these profound things.
What does that mean for the sacred, for the mystical?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's not giving answers, but it's certainly asking big questions.
for sure. And then from that sort of digital internal space, we shift to the physical world. Ecology and architecture. This bioresponsive cities idea is quite compelling.
Isn't it? The notion that our cities could become almost alive. Adapting to weather, sure, but also collective mood, maybe even intention.
Imagine building subtly shifting color based on the city's vibe, or infrastructure, adjusting to environmental changes in real time.
Yeah, sensing the inhabitants' needs and evolving with them. It's a much more integrated relationship with our built environment.
Moving beyond just static concrete and steel.
Exactly. More dynamic,
Yeah.
more interactive. It sort of touches on that return of the sacred trend, too, a desire for a more intuitive connection, even in a city.
That makes sense. Okay, next up is education. And it paints a picture very different from, lecture halls and textbooks.
Yeah, the phrase used is traditional education dissolving into hyper-personalized neuroplasticity protocols.
Okay, quite a mouthful. So, learning tailored right down to the individual brain, focused on rewiring for growth.
That's the idea. Using AI, VR, sound design, tools aimed at consciousness growth.
And it calls learning a trip, which loops back to that psychedelic architect idea, right?
It does. It suggests learning isn't just about absorbing facts. It's an immersive, transformative experience tailored to you.
Which again links to another trend, the post-productivity paradigm, moving beyond standardized results to personal growth.
Precisely. Less about the grind, more about genuine development.
Okay, now commerce and ceremony. Another pairing I didn't see coming.
It is unusual. The source imagines, crypto economies merging with ancient rituals.
How would that even work?
Well, it challenges what we think of as value. Maybe value gets stored in shared emotional
It's
epiphanies.
like a collective currency of meaning.
Sort of, yeah. And it mentions social proof through compassion or even NFTs of collective healing.
That's pretty radical.
Mm,
So our empathy, our interconnectedness becomes a form of capital.
potentially,
Hmm.
both social and maybe even economic. And again, you see that return of the sacred idea here, infusing economics with purpose beyond just the material.
Right, right. Okay, so all these different threads start weaving together in what the source calls fractal meta-trends. The first one is internalization of technology.
This is about tech becoming less external, less like a tool we hold, and more integrated. Wearables, implants, maybe eventually blurring into our biology, our thoughts, our emotions.
So not just using tech, but becoming intertwined with it,
Yeah, fundamental shift. Then the second trend, return of the sacred.
which we've touched on. In a world overflowing with data and tech, there's this pull towards meaning, towards myth, mystery,
Seems like it, like a natural counterbalance, to the purely rational, quantifiable side of things.
a need for something more. Makes sense. Then distributed identity.
This challenges the idea of one fixed self. Suggests we might become more fluid, more modular, adapting who we are based on the context, physical, virtual, augmented.
So less a single persona, more like different states depending on the reality you're in.
Exactly. Context-sensitive identities. And the last one, post-productivity paradigm.
Right, we mentioned this. Moving away from the constant hustle.
Yeah, the relentless drive for output and
Yeah.
moving towards regenerative rhythm, seeking balance, sustainability in how we live and work.
That definitely feels relevant now with all the talk about burnout. So maybe a bigger societal shift.
Perhaps. The source seems to suggest it.
Okay, so pulling it all together,
Yeah.
the crystallized insight. What's the core prediction?
In 10 years, the source sees humans actively curating consciousness, co-evolving with AI, using tech for ritual and healing, designing emotional realities, living as these multidimensional identities across different realities.
And the main metaphor? The human as a gardener of inner and outer ecologies.
Yeah, tending to our minds, cultures, relationships, even the code itself.
It's a shift from being passive consumers to active cultivators.
Precisely. Which leads to the final point, the metaphorical compression.
This is about the core question changing, right? Not just, what do I do?
Exactly. The question becomes, what am I synchronizing with today?
So moving from an age of doing action, output.
To an age of tuning, alignment, resonance, conscious participation in those overlapping times we talked about.
Wow. Okay. So wrapping up this deep dive, the age of tuning paints a future that's really complex, maybe more inward focused than we often imagine.
Definitely suggests a profound change in our relationship with ourselves, with tech, with the world.
And it leaves you, with that final question to chew on.
What are you tuning into today? It makes you think, doesn't it? About the forces shaping your present and the futures you might be helping create.
It certainly gives us a lot to mull over. This is really just scratching the surface of these ideas. Definitely food for thought as we look ahead. Thanks for joining us.